Welcome to the FullyCrypto podcast.
Hello and welcome to the FullyCrypto podcast, your home of quality cryptocurrency and blockchain news, opinion, analysis, and more. It's for the day after Thursday, which means you get to join me, Mark Hunter, as we take a razor-sharp scalpel to the week's news in cryptoland, having a good old poke and prod about, and whipping out anything we find interesting for a closer look. If this podcast tickles your funny bone, there should be a like button and a subscribe icon lying around the floor somewhere. If you find them, give them a quick press, and a monkey in a tuxedo will bring me a gin and tonic on a silver platter. I'd like to get roundly soused tonight, so if as many of you could oblige as possible, I'd be incredibly grateful. Well, it's one way to beat lockdown, isn't it? Without further ado then, let's don our surgeon's swimming trunks, get the anaesthetist to put the patient to sleep, and set about slicing into the week's crypto news. Nurse the screens. Monday witnessed the launch of Ethereum Futures on the CME exchange, which immediately drew parallels to their Bitcoin futures contracts, which launched in December 2017. The day of the Bitcoin CME futures launch was the day that Bitcoin itself hit $20,000, which, as almost everyone knows, represented the top of the bull market, and the price fell back down to $3,600 almost exactly a year later. Was it coincidence? Was it manipulation? For almost 2 years, no one was sure, until the CFTC chairman at the time, Chris Giancarlo, let slip that the CFTC, the Treasury, the SEC, and the National Economic Council director waved through the CME Bitcoin futures contracts, knowing full well that it would pop the Bitcoin bubble, which it did. With Ethereum having enjoyed a remarkable run from $600 in December to $1,700 today, some in the crypto community were worried that the CME might take the hatchet to Vitalik's coin, using the massed ranks of Wall Street to crash Ethereum back to the Stone Age. However, the situation is a little different this time round. Firstly, the Bitcoin futures launch of 2017 was introduced right at the tail end of the bull run when FOMO was getting out of control. It was easy, in hindsight, to see that the bubble was way too extended and shorting it was the obvious route. However, we're only a few months into the current bull market, with Ethereum only recently clearing 2017's highs, and so shorting it at this point in the cycle would be a very dangerous game, especially with the amount of institutional investment coming into the space. Secondly, Ethereum is a very different asset to Bitcoin, even more so now. Bitcoin was a speculative wealth generation play in 2017, whereas Ethereum today is the bedrock to the entire DeFi ecosystem. This isn't to say that you can't short something that important. After all, price has no bearing on Ethereum's quality as a platform, but it means there is huge desire for Ethereum, which would likely see any dips from shorting it bought up fairly quickly. Initially, the CME Ethereum futures don't seem to have had any impact on the price, but you can be sure that when the time comes they'll be shorting it into the ground, just like they did with Bitcoin in 2018. Monday also saw a certain car manufacturer announce that it had bought a bit of Bitcoin. On closer inspection, it was actually electric car pioneers Tesla announcing a purchase of $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin in January. Of course, SEC poster child Elon Musk had laid the groundwork last week with the switching of his Twitter bio to the Bitcoin logo, a move that pushed Bitcoin $6,000 by itself. The news that Tesla had gone ahead and actually bought a boatload of Bitcoin sent it ripping to new all-time highs of $45,000, pouring cold water on suggestions that $42,000 was Bitcoin's final destination for this bull run. The move wasn't good news as far as everyone was concerned, however, with the anti-Bitcoin brigade out in force to crowbar in the reasons why a growing number of companies, hedge funds, and prominent individuals are wrong and they are right. The Guardian reminded us that Bitcoin presents risks of security breaches, cyber attacks, or other malicious activities, as well as human errors or computer malfunctions that may result in the loss or destruction of private keys needed to access such assets. Which sounds oddly like they're worried that Elon might lose the keys to the Tesla Bitcoin wallet. The Financial Times was concerned about the liquidity of Tesla's Bitcoin holdings, stating that one of the issues with cryptocurrencies is the difficulties in transferring them to cash. which is so wildly out of date it belongs in a museum. The Wall Street Journal was equally as sceptical, stating that the move meant that capital markets have truly reached ludicrous mode, declining to mention that Tesla's reserves have spent the last 12 months dropping by 9% due to a decline in the value of the dollar. Tesla's Bitcoin purchase also puts to bed any thoughts the Dogecoin community had that Musk wasn't kidding when he said that his Dogecoin tweets should be considered jokes, although they won't mind too much given its recovery in recent days. The huge confidence boost Tesla just gave Bitcoin will also likely spread to other companies around the world who will now be looking at Bitcoin in a very different light compared to recent years. Blockfolio users got a very rude awakening on Tuesday when the Signals section of the app told them that Blockfolio were sad to announce we closure of our services to all black people and What? I can't say it? But this might be my only chance. Fine. To all black people and derogatory term for black people with immediate loss of all funds. Now, obviously, this was a shocking message for anyone to receive, mainly because of the grammar, and it was clear that the platform had been hacked in some way. But the infiltration did not stop there, with the hackers also changing the Bitcoin chart to say Coin. What? And posting what purported to be a link to the best child porn. Amazingly, some people on Twitter thought it important to urge recipients not to click on the link as it might be malware. Yeah, or child pornography. Blockfolio apologised for the situation and promised a full investigation, as did SushiSwap savior and CEO of Blockfolio's parent company FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried. It was clear for even a 3-week-old cabbage to see that the Signals section had been breached in some way, but when Bankman-Fried revealed a day later that a competitor exchange who maliciously gained access to someone else's Blockfolio news and Signals capabilities were behind it, it was a pretty stunning moment. The crypto space is generally one of cooperation, where projects frequently come together to help each other, and even competing companies piggyback on each other's technology without an issue. So to hear that an FTX competitor actively trying to harm them in such a disgusting way leaves a really sour taste, and it's just a shame that Bankman-Fried can't name them. The aim of the hack has clearly failed, as no one thought for a second that Blockfolio was behind the message, and the likelihood of someone not using FTX because of a Blockfolio breach is about as idiotic as the decision to send the message in the first place. Wednesday saw what could turn out to be the biggest boost for cryptocurrency adoption the space has ever seen, which is pretty impressive considering PayPal's crypto platform launched just 3 months ago. CoinDesk cited an inside source at Mastercard as saying that the payments giant would be allowing cryptocurrency payments to be made on its platform at some point this year. Now this is huge news in itself, arguably bigger than PayPal and Tesla combined, and not just because it's Mastercard. As anyone who's had the misfortune to own a crypto debit card will know, the only way to spend your hard-earned crypto involves the arduous process of converting the right amount on an app first before you can spend it at the till. The only card that doesn't require you to do this is the Coinbase card, a convenience for which you are handsomely charged. From the little that we know, it seems the Mastercard system will do things differently. You will spend your crypto, presumably through a phone wallet, at the point of sale, but, and here's the key, no conversion will take place. Again, we don't yet know what will happen to the crypto, but the key factor is, for the first time since Bitcoin was just a glimmer in Satoshi Nakamoto's eye, cryptocurrency will be as easy to use and spend as cash. This is something of a holy grail for the cryptocurrency world, because while cryptocurrency remains harder to use than cash, it won't be of any interest to the wider population. This is the situation at the moment, but if Mastercard can manage to remove one of the biggest barriers to adoption and finally allow the ubiquitous coffee shop purchase, then cryptocurrency might finally see some actual usage as a form of payment. Of course, as all good animal shelters know, adoption is key, and therein lies the rub. Mastercard doesn't have the ability to simply roll out crypto acceptance to every single payment terminal in the world. So how are they going to do it? The short answer is, we don't know, but what we can assume is that it will be an at participating restaurants only deal, which might well see barely any merchants deciding to accept crypto, at least initially. After all, Mastercard will likely charge the merchant if they decide to convert the crypto after the sale, which they probably will, on top of any normal fees they charge. Is it really in the best interest of the merchants then to accept crypto, knowing that there is hardly going to be a stampede to their shops if they go ahead with it? Unless a Walmart or another big shopping chain publicly announces that they'll be accepting cryptocurrencies through Mastercard, this plan is in danger of turning from a potential financial revolution to a firework on the 5th of July. This week also saw the spectre of Silk Road rear its ugly head, as the identity of individual X, who was until recently the owner of a Bitcoin wallet containing some $3 billion worth, was identified. Those of you unfamiliar with individual X might remember him, or her, as the person who was identified by the IRS last November as having hacked Silk Road between 2012 and 2013 and stolen almost 70,000 Bitcoin from the site's wallets. This Bitcoin had laid untouched for almost 6 years, not for the want of trying, hackers, until, after an exhaustive investigation, the IRS finally identified individual X and, 3 months ago, accessed the wallet and sent the 70,000 Bitcoin to the US Treasury. It turns out that individual X was not some bedroom-dwelling hacker who was too scared to cash any out. It was none other than Sean Bridges, the disgraced Secret Service agent put on the Silk Road case in 2013. Alongside helping to run Ross Ulbricht to ground, Bridges was using the logins of an informant to access the site and help himself to the very Bitcoin he was supposed to be handing over to the police. In May 2015, Bridges was jailed for 71 months for his actions, a sentence that was compounded in November 2017 when he admitted further crimes in the Silk Road case and was jailed for an additional 2 years. The authorities had seemingly thought they had tracked down all the missing Bitcoin that Bridges stole from Silk Road, but it appears not. Bridges cashed some of the Bitcoin out through the BTC exchange in 2015 before his arrest, around the same time as he tried to change his identity and his social security number, and it was that cashing out that cost him much more than the transaction fee. BTC was shut down by the FBI in 2017 and the customer records confiscated, among which was a 101 Bitcoin transaction from a Silk Road connected wallet. Years of investigation by the IRS, in tandem with Chainalysis in 2020, led them to identify individual X and pay him what must have been a very uncomfortable visit. Now, court papers relating to the seizure of the 70,000 Bitcoin reveal clues that Fortune magazine have put together to point to Bridges being individual X, noting that the transactions into the Bitcoin wallet stopped right before Bridges went to prison. The fate of the 600,000 plus Silk Road Bitcoin has been a source of discussion among crypto enthusiasts for years, but at least we know where a large portion of it went. To those dirty, dirty cops. That wraps up this week's edition of the FullyCrypto podcast. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to send a carrier pigeon to your nearest and dearest containing the links to the podcast, or just shout about how great we are in the street. And don't forget that you can sign up for the fabulous FullyCrypto newsletter, which will see the latest blockchain and cryptocurrency news, opinion and analysis winging its way to your inbox quicker than you can say Russell Brick didn't murder anyone, so why the hell is he in prison for the rest of his life, you stupid cunt? I've been Mark Hunter, you've been lucky to have me, and if the good Lord provides, I'll speak to you again next week. Nurse, I think he's dead.